G'day. We're going to look at converting an REA analysis and layout drawing into a PDF, something we can distribute, something that looks pretty good, something to scale. So I'm going to do that with TurboCAD, and TurboCAD 225 is what I have. This is about a $150 program, two-dimensional. The designer is a two-dimensional program. Works great. Good way to get drawings. Myself, I use the full AutoCAD version where I actually draw in AutoCAD and I do everything in there. But if you've just got the layout program, you don't have those capabilities, and that's where the designer comes in. Well, an inexpensive program, works out pretty good. So opens up, we can do a new drawing, which we could, or we can do an open files or a template. I'm going to open a file. And what I've saved in here is I've got a TurboCAD template, 11 by 17. So I open that up, comes in, and there's my template drawing in here. So I'll go down, I'll click on this, and I want to look at properties for this sheet. And I set up originally in inches, but I want it to be in feet. I want engineering scale 1 equals 10 feet. That means I can get about 120 feet on 11 by 17 piece of paper. Then page setup, I use a PDF printer. It's going to be 11 by 17, and my output is ANSI 11 by 17. So now this is all set up. If I go back up here, click on Tab, remember everything that gets imported comes in at 0, 0. So what I want to do is I want to take this and position X down here. I got to move it over to minus 100 feet and Y at 0. It's moved, so I'll go up the View tab up here. I want to view extents. Now I'm looking at that. Now when we go to viewports, everything is based on what's on the screen. So I want a viewport window, and I want to click from one extent to the other. You see that fits into the screen. Under named layouts, it's going to bring up this dialog, and then I want a new layout, and I'm going to call this border. So now that's saved the border. Okay, so we zoom back out here. Now what I want to do now is I want to bring in my drawing. So I'm going to open a file. This time it's a drawing file, a DWG or DWX, either one of those. I'm going to be CSAS Athletic Facility. I'm going to open that. And because we've set this drawing up in feet, it's going to convert everything in inches that what that drawing was made into onto feet that's going to fit onto this drawing. So that should come in there. Give it a minute. Quits flashing. Okay, now there's our drawing. So if we do a quick check on this, what we can do is we can go to dimensions, and I can dimension from the 0 point there to say 100 feet. 99.94. Okay, so it's in there, it's in feet. Everything is good. I pick my selection tool there. I delete that. I don't need this dialog down here, so I'm going to delete that. And what I said before is with viewports, it takes what's on the screen. So I want to create two viewports. I've got this wall is 210 feet long. It's not going to fit on a page, so I need to break it into two parts. So I'm going to go again back to View, Zoom to Window. I'm going a little bit outside of what I want, and I'm going to go to about 122 feet, something like that. So that's my viewport in there. Now I'm going to create another viewport. I'm going to call this station 0 to 120. So there's my viewport. I'll zoom out on this screen, and I can do a vector pan to move that over. Move it just a little bit more. Okay, now I need to create another view, and this time I'm going from about 118 to something a little bit larger than my vertical scale, and I'm going to call this station 120 to 220. So again, when I'm looking up here, border 0 is this one, station 10 to 120 is this one, station 120 to 240 is that one. So good, now this is all set up. Now if I go to workspace, I want to go into paper space view, and I'm looking at paper 1 is the sheet that I'm going to print onto, and I look at properties, and I want this to be in feet. I want a 1-to-1 scale. Engineering, everything in paper space is a 1-to-1 scale, and then when we import viewports, we set those up to the specific scale. So my Bluebeam printer is what I'm using, 11 by 17, and I want the NCB drawing. Boom, there's our sheet. And I'll zoom out a little bit on that one. There we go. Now, I go to Insert. I want viewports, and I'm going to put one viewport right here, and that's 0 to 120. I'll close that one. I'm going to put another viewport down here at 120 to 220. I'm going to close that, and then I'm going to put the last viewport in, going from the full size of the page, and that's going to be my border. So I'll go to that one. Okay, now let's click on again our selection tool, click on my border, and I'll pick that and I'll drag that border out to the corner out here so that I'm filling that whole page. And I've got about a 3/4 or about a 1/2 to 3/4 inch border all the way around my template on there. So that's that set. Now I can go here, double click on this one. I'll go to my viewport, and I want to scale, and I want to scale that was 1 inch equals 10 feet, and I want to lock that scale. So now that drawing is scaled. I can do the same thing down here. Viewport, fixed scale, 1 inch, colon, 10 feet. And I want to lock that scale. Perfect, they're both in there. Okay, so let's go to this one. Now I need to see my scale bar at the bottom, so I'll drag that down to the scale bar. I'll drag this over here to get rid of that white space, and then I'll click on the center and I'll move that up a little bit, somewhere over like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, now I'll click on this one. See, it went to 1 to 120 because we're working in feet and inches. I locked the scale bar, so that's good. So now I'll pick the selection tab down here, come down to where I can see my scale bar. That looks pretty good. The top looks good. I can get rid of this white space over here, and that's overlapping on the bottom a little bit. So what I can do, there's stuff up there that I don't need or that I can move. So I can go back into paper space, model space. I can zoom out. What I can do is, again, the selection tool is picked. Pick this stuff up here, and I want to move that down. Oh, my shift key, move that down to there. So that looks better. And then I can go into my where am I? My options. What am I looking for? Tools, format. There we go. Format, layers. And down here, I don't need the construction layer on. I don't need my hidden layer on. So I turn that off. And, you know, I could say section lines and stuff like that, but, you know, that cleans that drawing up. So now we go back to paper space. You know, see, you know, I move these top ones down. You know, they're fitting on the page a little bit better. And what I can do is I can click on that one. I can move that up a little bit more. And I can move this one up a little bit more. And down a little bit. That's pretty close. Now what you can do too, you see the borders are showing on here? So I can click on that, I can double click, and in the icon here it says visible box. I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Visible border, I'm going to turn that one off. And there we go. So there's a construction drawing. 1 inch equals 10 foot on the scale. I've got a border down here at the bottom that I can change, and then I can print that. So I can go save the file, and save as. The dialog pops up. Save as. There we go. And I'm going to put this up on the desktop, and I'll just call it, you know, wall 1 drawing, whatever I want. It's going to save it as a TurboCAD. You don't want a template. You want to save it as a TurboCAD drawing file. And that gets saved. And you can give it a file name in here. Wall 1 file, subject, whatever, construction drawing. So save it as a meta file. Boom, that's saved. Now, the reason we do this, you know, if we went back to model space, let me close that one, and I say I want to print this, well, I can do a print preview, and this is what you get. I was trying to take that whole drawing and fit it onto a page, so I could close that. I can zoom out a little bit. I can do a vector pan on here to try and bring it across. I'm going to zoom a window like that. Now if I do, you know, file, print preview, boom, it tries to fit the whole thing on a page, and that's what you're getting right now. So the model space doesn't work very well for printing, but if we go back into paper space and I do a print preview here, that's exactly what you get. So there's the drawing, broke up into 2 pieces, so we're seeing something you can read. There's a title bar on it, and you can print that out as a PDF or whatever you want to do with it. So with that, that's an easy way to turn a REA Analysis Layout drawing into a PDF that is to scale and is to whatever sheet size you want, 8.5 by 11, 11 by 17, 34 by 22, whatever you want. And we can go back in the model space in here if we wanted to, and I get view extends, and I could insert the plan view for the project up in here and scale it. I could insert more walls in here and save them, and then I would create more paper space tabs down here, and one could be a title page, a plan page, wall 1, wall 2, wall 3, and I could create all those pages in here to get a nice file going out. So I hope that helps. Any questions, send me an email, give me a call, and I think you'll find this as a cheap alternative which produces some nice drawings. Thanks.